I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Picture this. A bridge. Steel cables cutting through fog so thick it feels like the world has been wrapped in gauze. Below, water so dark it doesn't reflect anything. Not the lights, not the sky, not hope. Now picture a woman standing on that bridge. She's 23 years old, but she looks 40. Her coat is too thin for October. Her shoes have holes she's stuffed with newspaper. In her arms, wrapped in the only warm thing she owns, a blanket that used to be blue but is now the color of exhaustion, is a baby. 6 months old. The only reason her heart still beats. That woman is me. My name is Elena Vasquez, and 4 years ago I died on that bridge. Not literally. My heart kept pumping. My lungs kept pulling in air. But the woman I had been, the woman I thought I would become, she died right there at 2:47 in the morning in a city that had chewed me up and was about to spit me out. And then he appeared. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You need to understand how I got to that bridge. You need to know what I was running from, who I was protecting, and why, in that moment, fainting seemed like the kindest thing my body had ever done for me. You know that feeling when you've been standing for so long your legs forget they're supposed to hold you? When you've been awake for so many days that reality starts to blur at the edges like a photograph left in the sun. That's where I was. That's who I was. And the man who caught me, the man who would either save me or destroy me, was the most feared person in the entire city. The night I fainted, I had been walking for 7 hours. 7 hours. 42,000 steps. I know because I counted. When you're trying not to think about the fact that you have $17 to your name, that your landlord has given you 24 hours to get out, and that the baby in your arms hasn't stopped crying for 3 days straight because you can't afford the medicine she needs, you count things. Steps, breaths, the number of cars that pass without stopping, the number of people who look at you and then look away, like poverty might be contagious. 47. That's how many people looked away that night. I wasn't on the bridge to jump. I need you to understand that. I would never, never, do that to Sophia. My daughter was the only pure thing left in my world, the only proof that I had ever done anything right. I was on the bridge because it was the longest route between the shelter I'd been turned away from and the church basement that sometimes let mothers sleep on the floor. The fog had rolled in around midnight, turning the city into something unrecognizable. Streetlights became ghosts, cars became shadows, and I became invisible, just another forgotten person moving through a world that had no space for me. Sophia had finally stopped crying. She was so small in my arms, so light. The fever had broken the night before, thank God, but she was weak now. Sleeping too much, eating too little. I needed to get her somewhere warm, somewhere safe. My legs started shaking around hour 6. By hour 7, I was negotiating with my own body. Just to the end of the bridge, I told my legs, just to the end, then you can rest. But my legs weren't listening anymore. My vision was doing that thing where it tunnels, where the edges go dark and the center gets too bright. I remember thinking, very clearly, if I fall, I need to fall forward. I need to land on my back so Sophia doesn't hit the ground. That was my last conscious thought. If I fall, protect her. Then the fog swallowed me whole. I didn't feel myself fall. What I felt was the impact that never came. 1 second I was standing, swaying, really, and the next I was held, suspended. The cold, hard concrete I'd been bracing for was replaced by something warm, something solid. Arms like steel bands wrapping around me from behind, catching me and Sophia in one smooth motion. I heard a voice, deep, commanding, speaking rapid Italian into what must have been a phone. Ferma la macchina, subito. Then in English, softer, I have you, don't move. I couldn't have moved if I wanted to. My body had officially surrendered, but my mind, my stupid, stubborn, terrified mind was screaming. Sophia, where's Sophia? I tried to speak. All that came out was a sound like paper tearing. The baby is safe, the voice said. She's still in your arms, you didn't let go. Of course I didn't let go. I would never let go. The world was still spinning, still dark at the edges, but I forced my eyes open. The first thing I saw was Sophia's face, peaceful in sleep, her tiny fist curled against my chest. The second thing I saw was the man holding me. And my heart, the heart that had been running on empty for months, simply stopped. He was beautiful in the way that thunderstorms are beautiful. Dark hair, just long enough to curl at the edges. Cheekbones that could cut glass. Eyes the color of whiskey held up to firelight, amber and gold and dangerous. But it wasn't his beauty that made me forget how to breathe. It was the recognition. I knew that face. Everyone in the city knew that face. Dante Marchetti. The Marchetti family controlled everything. The ports, the construction industry, the unions, half the politicians and most of the police. They were the shadow government, the whispered name that mothers used to scare their children into obedience. Behave, or the Marchettis will come for you. And Dante was the worst of them all, the heir apparent, the enforcer, the man who had built his reputation on the bodies of people who had crossed his family. I was being held by a monster. No, I whispered, trying to push away. No, please. Stop. His arms tightened, not painfully but immovably. You'll fall again, and this time I might not catch you. Let me go. No. Just no. Simple as that. Like my protest was a fly he couldn't be bothered to swat. A car appeared out of the fog, a black Mercedes that probably cost more than I'd earned in my entire life. It stopped beside us, and a man in a dark suit jumped out. Boss, what? Get the door, now. But. Now asterisk Marco. The door opened. Before I could protest, before I could even understand what was happening, Dante Marchetti was sliding into the back seat with me still in his arms, Sophia still pressed against my chest, the fog sealing behind us like a curtain closing on the worst night of my life. Or what I thought was the worst night. I didn't know, yet, that it was actually the beginning. I should have fought harder, I know that now, but you have to understand, I was running on fumes. I had been running on fumes for 6 months, and there's a point where your body just gives up. Where it decides that survival matters more than pride, more than fear, more than anything else. The car moved through the city like a shark through water, smooth, predatory, unstoppable. I sat in the corner of the back seat, as far from Dante Marchetti as the leather would allow, holding Sophia so tightly she should have woken up. She didn't, she just slept. Where are you taking me? My voice sounded like rust. Somewhere safe. Safe, I almost laughed. You're Dante Marchetti, nothing about you is safe. For the first time, something flickered in those whiskey gold eyes. Surprise, maybe, or interest. You know who I am. Everyone knows who you are. And yet you're not screaming, not trying to jump out of a moving vehicle. He tilted his head, studying me the way you'd study a puzzle you couldn't quite solve. Why? I looked down at Sophia, at her perfect little face, her tiny eyelashes casting shadows on her cheeks. Because screaming takes energy I don't have, and jumping wouldn't save her. Something changed in his expression. Something softened, just for a moment, before the ice slid back into place. You were on that bridge for 7 hours, he said. It wasn't a question. My blood went cold. How do you? I own the bridge. I own the cameras on the bridge. I watched you walk back and forth, and I kept waiting for you to jump. I wasn't going to. I know, he said it simply, like a fact. Jumpers don't cradle their bobbies like they're made of glass. Jumpers don't count their steps. You weren't trying to die. You were trying to figure out how to live. I stared at him. This man who was supposed to be a monster, who saw more in a few hours of footage than anyone had seen in months of passing me on the street. What do you want from me? I whispered. He didn't answer immediately. The car pulled through a gate, iron, massive, the kind that says keep out and you're not welcome and this is not your world. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than before. I want to know why you were on my bridge. I want to know who you're running from. And I want to know why a woman who's clearly educated, clearly capable, clearly more than what I'm seeing, is dressed in rags and carrying a sick baby through the fog at 3 in the morning. That's a lot of wants. I'm not used to being denied. Then this should be educational for you. That surprised him. I saw it, a flash of something that might have been amusement crossing his face before he controlled it. You're not afraid of me, he said. I'm terrified of you. Then why are you talking back? I thought about that, really thought about it, and the answer, when it came, was the truest thing I'd said in months. Because I've already lost everything. Because the worst thing you could do to me is hurt Sophia, and if you were going to do that, you wouldn't have caught me. You would have let me fall. I met his eyes, and I didn't look away. So either you're going to kill me quick or you want something, and either way, I'm too tired to pretend to be someone I'm not. The car stopped. Outside the window, a house rose from the darkness. No, not a house. A mansion, a fortress, something out of a Gothic novel, all stone and shadows and secrets. Dante Marchetti smiled. It was not a kind smile, but it wasn't cruel either. It was the smile of a man who had just discovered something interesting in a world where interesting things were rare. Elena Vasquez, he said, and hearing my name in his mouth made my skin prickle. You're going to be trouble, aren't you? How do you know my name? I know everything. He opened the door and cold air rushed in. Now come inside. Your daughter needs a doctor and you need food. We can discuss terms in the morning. Terms of what? He looked at me over his shoulder, and in that moment, he looked almost human. Terms of your survival. I don't save people for free. I woke up in a room that cost more than my annual salary. That's not an exaggeration. The bed alone, some kind of antique four-poster with sheets so soft they felt like water, could have paid my rent for a year. The window looked out over gardens so manicured they seemed fake. And on a table beside the bed sat a tray of food that made me want to weep. Fresh fruit, eggs, toast with real butter, coffee that didn't come from a packet. But I didn't eat, not yet. First, I searched for Sophia. I found her in a crib next to the bed, a brand new crib that hadn't been there when I'd collapsed into unconsciousness. She was sleeping peacefully, wrapped in a blanket that was definitely cashmere, looking healthier than she had in weeks. A note sat beside the crib, handwritten in elegant script. The doctor came at 4 a.m. Your daughter has a respiratory infection, not dangerous with proper treatment. Medicine is on the dresser. Administer every 6 hours. The nurse will check on you at noon. Eat something. DM***. I sat down on the floor next to the crib and cried. Not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears streaming down my face like rain on glass. Relief, exhaustion, gratitude that I hated feeling because it meant I owed something to a man who terrified me. A knock on the door made me wipe my eyes. Come in, I said, because what else was there to say? This wasn't my house. I couldn't exactly lock people out. The door opened to reveal a woman in her 60s with silver hair and a face like carved oak, stern but not unkind. Ms. Vasquez, I'm Rosa, the housekeeper. Mr. Marchetti has asked me to inform you that he'll see you in his study at 2 o'clock. Until then, you're to rest and eat. Clothes have been provided. She gestured to a wardrobe I hadn't noticed. Is there anything you need? A phone, I said automatically, and answers. The phone I can provide. The answers are above my pay grade. A ghost of a smile. 2 o'clock, don't be late. Mr. Marchetti doesn't appreciate waiting. The study was exactly what you'd expect from a man like Dante Marchetti. Dark wood, leather chairs, walls lined with books that looked actually read rather than just decorative. A fireplace crackled in the corner, casting dancing shadows across the floor. He was standing by the window when I walked in, looking out at the gardens. In the daylight, he was somehow even more intimidating. Every line of his body spoke of controlled power, like a weapon that had been temporarily holstered. You ate, he said without turning around. I was ordered to. And yet, you didn't eat last night when the tray was brought to your room. Of course, he knew that. Of course, he had people reporting my every move. I was unconscious last night. You were awake for 2 hours before you fell asleep again. You checked on your daughter approximately 47 times. Now he turned, and those whiskey eyes pinned me in place. You didn't eat because you were afraid. You thought perhaps the food was drugged or poisoned. You tested small amounts, waited to see if you had a reaction, and only when nothing happened did you sleep. My heart was pounding. Are you always this invasive? Yes, he gestured to a chair. Sit. I prefer to stand. So do I. Sit anyway. You're still weak, and if you faint again, I'll have to catch you again, and that's tedious. I sat, not because he told me to, but because he was right. My legs were already shaking. Dante took the chair across from me, leaning back with the casual grace of a predator who knows exactly where his prey is. Tell me your story, he said. That's not a question. It wasn't meant to be. We stared at each other, two people from completely different worlds, circling each other like wary animals. Why should I tell you anything? I asked. Because I saved your life. Because I'm providing you shelter, food, and medical care for your daughter. Because, he leaned forward, and the firelight made his eyes glow like embers. I could make a single phone call and erase every problem you've ever had. Or I could make a single phone call and erase asterisk you asterisk. The difference depends entirely on whether you're interesting enough to keep. And if I'm not interesting, then I'll put you back on that bridge and let someone else deal with you. It should have been a threat. It was a threat. But something in the way he said it, almost regretful, made me believe he didn't want to do it. So I told him. I told him everything. My mother was a maid, I began. She worked for the Harrison family, you know them, old money, shipping empire. I know them, Dante confirmed. Charles Harrison is a business associate. Then you know their son, Philip. Something flickered in Dante's expression. Understanding, maybe, or disgust. I know Philip. I was 17 when I started helping my mother on weekends. We needed the money, my father had left, there were medical bills, the usual sob story that poor people tell. I was a good worker. Quiet, invisible, exactly what families like the Harrisons want. The words came easier than I expected. Maybe because I'd never said them out loud. Maybe because saying them to a stranger, even a dangerous stranger, felt safer than saying them to someone who might have stopped it. Philip was 25. He noticed me. I was young enough to be flattered by that, old enough to know better. But I didn't know better, not really. I paused. The fire crackled. Outside, birds sang in the garden, oblivious to the ugliness being unveiled inside. What happened next? Dante's voice was soft now. Not gentle, he didn't seem capable of gentle, but soft. He was kind at first, then he wasn't, and by the time I understood what kind of person he really was, it was too late. I looked down at my hands, still rough, still calloused, still bearing the marks of years of hard work. I got pregnant. I was 19. I thought stupidly that he would be happy, that maybe this would mean something. It didn't. It didn't. He told me to take care of it. When I refused, he told his parents that I had seduced him, that I was trying to trap him, that I was nothing but a gold digger who had, my voice cracked, who had asterisk used my own mother's position to get access to their precious son. Can you imagine? Can you imagine loving someone, trusting someone, carrying their child, and then being told that you are the predator, that you are the problem? My mother lost her job. We lost our apartment. I lost my scholarship. Oh, I didn't mention that, did I? I was in college, pre-law. I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to asterisk be asterisk something. What did the Harrisons do? They made it very clear that if I ever spoke publicly about Philip, if I ever tried to claim child support, if I ever came within 100 feet of their family, they would destroy what was left of my life. I laughed, and it was a bitter, broken sound. They're very good at destroying things. Ask my mother. Oh, wait, you can't. She died 6 months ago. Stress, the doctors said. Her heart just gave out. Silence. I forced myself to continue. After Mom died, I tried to get a job. But Philip had made sure to spread rumors about me in every industry I applied to. I was unhireable. I sold everything I owned. I moved to cheaper apartments, then cheaper still, until there were no cheaper apartments left. And the bridge. The bridge was a week after I got evicted. A week after the last shelter turned me away because I didn't have the right paperwork. A week after Sophia got sick and I couldn't afford medicine. I met his eyes and I refused to cry. I had done enough crying. I wasn't trying to die. I was trying to figure out how to get to the church on the other side of the bridge, because sometimes they let mothers sleep in the basement, and it was so cold, and Sophia was so sick, and I just kept walking because if I stopped walking, I didn't know if I would be able to start again. I stopped talking. There was nothing else to say. Dante Marchetti studied me for a long moment. His face was unreadable, carved from the same stone as the mansion, designed to give nothing away. Then he stood. "The Harrisons," he said quietly, "are about to have a very bad year." Over the next few days, I learned the terms of my survival. Dante Marchetti didn't do charity. He did transactions. Everything was a business deal, even kindness, especially kindness. "You need money," he said during our second meeting. "You need safety. You need access to lawyers who can actually fight the Harrisons. You need time to recover and resources to rebuild." "And what do you need?" "A wife." I stared at him. "Excuse me." "Not a real wife. A business arrangement." He said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. "I need someone to attend functions with me, to deflect questions about my personal life, to present an image of stability to certain associates who are concerned about my long-term viability." "You want me to pretend to be your wife?" "For 1 year, in exchange, I'll provide housing for you and your daughter, education funds, medical care, legal representation against the Harrisons, pro bono, courtesy of the best lawyers money can buy." He paused. "At the end of the year, you'll receive a settlement substantial enough to start over anywhere in the world. Clean, free, untouchable." "And if I say no?" "Then you're free to leave. Right now. I'll even have Marco drive you back to the bridge if you'd like." It was a trap, a velvet-lined, gold-plated trap with teeth hidden beneath the silk. But it was also a lifeline. "Why me?" I asked. "You could have any woman in the city, women who actually know how to play the part." "Those women want something from me: power, money, access. They have agendas, and those agendas make them dangerous." He looked at me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "You want nothing from me except to be left alone. That makes you the safest option." "You don't know that I'm not dangerous." "No," he agreed, "but I know you're not stupid, and I know you'll do anything to protect your daughter. That's a predictability I can work with." I thought about Sophia, sleeping peacefully in a warm crib for the first time in her life. I thought about the medicine that was already working, bringing color back to her cheeks. I thought about the food, the safety, the chance to rebuild. 1 year, I said slowly. 1 year. And in that year, you don't touch me. This is strictly business. Strictly business. And if you break your word, if you hurt me or Sophia, then you can tell the FBI everything you've seen in this house. A ghost of a smile. I'm trusting you with quite a lot, Alina. The least you can do is trust me back. I didn't trust him, not even a little, but I didn't have to trust him. I just had to survive him. Okay, I said, you have a deal. If you're still with me, thank you. This story means everything to me, and I hope it means something to you too. Hit that like button if you're feeling what I felt. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because what happened next changed everything. I mean everything. The first few weeks were an education. I learned how to walk in heels without wobbling, how to make small talk with people whose net worth exceeded the GDP of small countries, how to smile when I wanted to scream and nod when I wanted to argue. I learned which fork to use, which wine to praise, which compliments were genuine and which were daggers wrapped in silk. But more importantly, more terrifyingly, I learned about Dante Marchetti. He wasn't what I expected. Oh, he was dangerous. That part was absolutely true. I watched him destroy a man's career with a single phone call, watched him reduce a room of powerful businessmen to stammering silence with nothing but a glance. His reputation wasn't exaggerated. It was earned, inch by brutal inch. But he was also unexpected. He remembered Sophia's medication schedule better than I did. He had her crib moved to a room that got morning sunlight because he read somewhere that it was good for infant development. He hired a nanny, not to replace me, but to help when I was exhausted. And he never, not once, complained about the baby crying in the middle of the night. "You're starring," he said one evening, catching me watching him work. "I'm trying to figure you out." "Don't bother. Better women than you have tried and failed." "That's not the flex you think it is." He looked up from his papers, and something that might have been amusement flickered in his eyes. "No," he agreed. "I suppose it isn't." We fell into a rhythm, he and I breakfast together when schedules allowed. Brief meetings before public events. Quiet evenings where he worked and I read and neither of us talked, but somehow we weren't alone. It was strange, it was comfortable, it was terrifying. Because I was starting to forget that this wasn't real. The trouble started at a charity gala. I should have known something was wrong from the moment we arrived. Dante was tense in a way I'd never seen, his jaw tight, his eyes scanning the room like he expected an ambush. "What is it?" I whispered. "Nothing." "Don't lie to me." He glanced down at me, and for a moment I saw something raw in his expression. Fear, anger, I couldn't tell. "My brother is here," he said finally. "Victor, he wasn't supposed to be released for another 3 months." "Released from where?" "From a very exclusive facility that treats very exclusive problems." His voice was bitter. "Problems like attempting to murder our father for control of the family." I froze. "That's wow." "Yes, wow." He straightened his cufflinks. "Stay close to me tonight. Don't engage with anyone you don't recognize. And if anyone offers you a drink you haven't watched being poured, don't take it." The night became a blur of faces and champagne and whispered conversations that stopped when I approached. I clung to Dante's arm like a lifeline, hyper-aware of every exit, every shadow, every unfamiliar face. And then I saw him. Not Victor, someone worse. Philip Harrison. He was standing across the ballroom, looking exactly like the nightmare I remembered, handsome, polished, and cruel. His eyes found mine, and his lips curled into a smile that made my blood run cold. He started walking toward me. "Dante," I whispered. "I see him. He's coming over." "I know." "Dante, I can't." "Breathe." His hand covered mine, warm and steady. "He can't hurt you anymore. You're with me now." And then Philip was there, standing in front of us with that smile that used to make me feel special, and now just made me feel sick. "Elena," he said. "What an unexpected surprise." "Philip," I forced the word through numb lips. "I heard rumors that you'd found Protector." His eyes flicked to Dante, dismissive. "I see the rumors were true, though I have to say I expected better from you, Marchetti. I thought you had standards." The temperature dropped. Around us, conversations faltered. People stopped pretending not to watch. "Harrison," Dante's voice was silk over steel. "I heard rumors that you developed some taste since you're unfortunate. Scandal. I see those rumors were false." "Scandal," Philip laughed. "Is that what she's calling it now? That's not what she called it when she was begging me to." "Finish that sentence," Dante interrupted softly, "and I will finish you." The room went silent. Philip's smile faltered. For the first time, I saw uncertainty in his eyes, the dawning realization that he was no longer the most powerful person in the room. "You're threatening me over her, over this." "I am informing you," Dante said, "that Elena Vasquez is under my protection. My asterisk complete protection. Which means that if you ever speak to her again, if you ever look at her wrong, if you ever so much as think about her in a way that might be construed as negative." He leaned in. And his voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried across the silent room. "I will take everything your family has. Every ship. Every contract. Every penny your great-grandfather scraped together when he was still smuggling bootleg liquor through the ports I now control." "You can't." "I can, I have. The paperwork will be on your father's desk by Monday morning." Dante straightened. "Now apologize to my wife." Philip's face went white. then red, his fists clenched at his sides. For one horrible moment, I thought he was going to refuse. I thought he was going to cause a scene, to scream the truth about our arrangement, to expose me as the fraud I was. But then something broke in his expression, something cowardly, and he muttered something that might have been sorry before turning and walking away, his shoulders hunched like a beaten dog. The room exhaled. Dante turned to me, his expression concerned. "Are you all right?" I should have been grateful, I should have been relieved, but all I felt was furious. "You called me your wife." A slip of the tongue. "No, it wasn't." I pulled my hand from his arm. "You used me. That whole thing, the threat, the posturing, it wasn't about protecting me. It was about sending a message to the room, about establishing power. I was just a prop." Something flickered in his eyes. Guilt, frustration. "Elena." "Don't." I was shaking now, months of suppressed emotions suddenly boiling to the surface. "Don't act like you care. Don't pretend this is anything other than a transaction. I agreed to a year of my life in exchange for survival. I didn't agree to be your weapon." I walked away. For the first time in 3 months, I walked away from Dante Marchetti without asking permission. And he let me go. I found a balcony overlooking the gardens and let the cold air cool my burning face. I wasn't being fair. I knew that. Dante had defended me, publicly, dramatically, at significant cost to his business relationships. The fact that it had also served his purposes didn't make the protection less real. But I was so tired of being used, so tired of being a pawn in games I didn't understand, so tired of owing people who held the power to destroy me. "You're angry with the wrong person." I spun around. A man was standing in the shadows of the balcony, tall, blonde, with features that were almost pretty and eyes that were absolutely dead. Victor Marchetti, it had to be. "I'd prefer to be alone," I said carefully. "I'm sure you would." He stepped forward, and I instinctively stepped back. But I wanted to meet the woman who's captured my brother's attention. It's been so long since Dante was interested in anything other than work and revenge. "I haven't captured anything. We have an arrangement." "Oh, I know all about your arrangement." He smiled, and it didn't reach his eyes. A year as his pretend wife in exchange for protection. Very practical, very Dante. He tilted his head. "What I don't understand is why you'd accept such terrible terms." "Survival." He was too close now, crowding me against the balcony railing. "You see, I've been watching you two for weeks. You should know, my brother has cameras everywhere, but I know where they don't reach. And what I've observed is quite fascinating." "I don't know what you're talking about." "The way he looks at you when he thinks no one is watching. The way you lean into him, even when you're angry. The little touches that linger too long for a business arrangement." Victor's smile widened. "My brother is falling for you, Elena Vasquez, and you, stupid, desperate girl, are falling for him." "That's not." "Here's what's going to happen." His hand closed around my wrist like a vice. "You're going to help me get close to Dante. You're going to report on his movements, his security, his weaknesses. And in return, I won't send these photographs to the Harrison family." He held up a phone. On it were pictures of Sophia, sleeping in her crib, playing in the garden, eating breakfast in the kitchen. Intimate moments captured without my knowledge. "They're quite interested in their potential grandchild," Victor murmured. "I understand they have excellent lawyers. Custody battles can be so draining." The world tilted, my chest constricted. "They have no claim to her. Philip. Philip will do whatever his parents tell him. He always does." Victor pocketed the phone. "You have until Friday to make your decision. Oh, and Alina, don't bother telling Dante. If you do," he gestured toward the photos, "I'll release everything, every picture, every piece of evidence, and then we'll see how much my brother's protection is really worth." He walked away, leaving me alone with the cold and the fear and the terrible understanding that once again I was trapped. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the nursery, watching Sophia breathe, counting each tiny exhale like it might be the last. She was so small, so innocent. She didn't know that her mother had made yet another terrible bargain, that her safety hung by threads I couldn't see and couldn't control. "You're awake." I didn't turn around. I'd heard Dante's footsteps in the hall, softer than they should be for a man his size, but I'd learned to listen for them. "Go away." "No." He came into the room and sat in the chair opposite me. "Something happened at the gala. After you left, I need to know what." "It's nothing." "You're a terrible liar." "Then stop asking questions you don't want answered." Silence, then softly, "Elena." Something in the way he said my name made me finally look at him. In the dim light of the nursery, with the shadows softening his features, he looked almost vulnerable. "Did my brother approach you?" The question hung in the air. I could lie. I could deny. I could play Victor's game and hope I survived long enough to escape. But I looked at Sophia, and I looked at Dante, and I realized something that should have been obvious from the start. I was done being a pawn. "Yes," I said. "He approached me. He wants me to spy for him. He has photos of Sophia, security footage, I think, and he's threatening to send them to the Harrisons." Dante went very, very still. "He threatened my daughter. He threatened our asterisk arrangement. He threatened everything." I wrapped my arms around myself. "I should have told you immediately, but I was scared. I thought maybe I could figure something out on my own. I thought." "You thought you couldn't trust me." "Can I?" I met his eyes. "Can I actually trust you, Dante? Because from where I'm standing, I'm just another asset in a war I don't understand. And I need to know asterisk, if you're going to protect Sophia, or if you're going to use her the same way you use everything else." The question hung between us. And then Dante did something I never expected. He told me the truth. "My mother died when I was 12, he began. "Everyone said it was an accident, a car crash on a rainy night, tragic but unavoidable. But I knew it was Victor." He was staring at the wall, not at me, his voice flat in a way that was somehow more devastating than emotion would have been. "He was 14, already cruel, already broken in ways no one wanted to acknowledge. He cut the brake lines himself, told me about it later, laughing like it was a joke we shared." "Why would he?" "Because she loved me more, because she saw what he was and tried to protect me from it, because—" his voice cracked, just barely, "because she was going to take me away, leave the family, escape the life my father had built, and Victor couldn't allow that." I thought of my own mother, of the exhaustion that had killed her, of the love that had sustained her even when everything else failed. "No one believed me when I tried to tell them," Dante continued. "My father thought I was jealous, the doctors thought I was traumatized, and Victor just smiled that smile and said, 'Poor Dante, so sad, so confused.'" He finally looked at me. "I spent 20 years building power specifically so that when Victor finally slipped, when he finally showed his true nature to someone who mattered, I could destroy him. And now? And now he's out 3 months early because he convinced the right people that he was rehabilitated. Now he's making moves against me, against everything I've built. And now," his jaw tightened, "now he's threatened you. And Sophia. And I find that I am angrier than I have ever been in my life." The raw honesty of it took my breath away. "Why?" I whispered. "We're just part of an arrangement. Why would you be angry?" He looked at me with something like wonder, something like fear. "Because somewhere in the last 3 months," he said quietly, "you stopped being an arrangement, and I don't know how to handle that." What happened next was brutal. I won't pretend to understand all of it, the corporate maneuvering, the legal battles, the carefully orchestrated strikes against Victor's support network, but I understood enough. Dante declared war on his own brother, and he did it for us. The Harrisons received a detailed dossier documenting 30 years of their business practices, illegal practices, hidden by expensive lawyers and convenient relationships. Philip's father had a stroke reading it. The company's stock dropped 40% in a single day. Any custody claim they might have made died before it could begin. Victor's allies started disappearing, not literally but financially. Investments failed. Contracts evaporated. Powerful friends suddenly became unavailable. Within weeks, he was isolated, exposed, vulnerable. And through it all, Dante kept me and Sophia safe. He moved us to a different wing of the mansion, one with its own security system and a panic room hidden behind the nursery. He hired private guards, women, at my request, because I needed to feel safe in a way that male guards couldn't provide. He checked on us every morning, every evening, every time he passed our door. He was protecting us, really protecting us, not as assets, not as leverage, as people he cared about. And slowly, terrifyingly, I started to believe it. The night Victor came for us, I almost didn't hear him. It was 3 a.m., that dead hour when the world holds its breath between night and morning. Sophia was sleeping. The guards were at their posts, and I was reading in the sitting room, unable to sleep for reasons I couldn't name. A crash. Then another. Then gunfire. I was moving before I could think, instinct overriding fear. I grabbed Sophia from her crib, slammed the panic room door shut behind us, and huddled in the dark with my daughter pressed against my chest. You know that feeling when time stops, when every second stretches into eternity, and you can hear your own heartbeat so loudly it drowns out everything else. That's how I felt. For 7 minutes I counted. I waited in the darkness, not knowing if we would live or die. And then the door opened. Elena. Dante, bloody, exhausted, alive. "It's over," he said. "Victor's in custody. He won't hurt you again." I didn't ask questions. I didn't demand explanations. I just held Sophia and cried because it was over. It was finally over. And when Dante wrapped his arms around both of us, carefully, gently, like we were something precious, I let him. It took 3 months for things to settle. Victor was convicted of a dozen different charges: attempted murder, corporate espionage, threats against a minor. He went to a prison, not a facility. The kind of prison where his family name meant nothing and his pretty face made things harder, not easier. The Harrisons settled out of court. A substantial settlement, enough to set Sophia up for life, in exchange for my silence about Philip's character. I took the money and burned every photograph, every letter, every reminder of the man who had tried to destroy me. My legal name became Elena Marchetti, not because Dante asked, because I wanted a fresh start, a new identity, a clean break from everything I had been. And Dante kept his word. At the end of the year, he sat me down in the study where we'd first negotiated our arrangement and handed me an envelope. "This is everything I promised," he said. "The money, the documentation, everything you need to start over anywhere in the world." I took the envelope. It was heavier than I expected. Just like that, he wouldn't meet my eyes. "Our arrangement is complete, you're free." Free. The word should have been a relief, a triumph, the culmination of everything I'd survived and sacrificed. But it tasted like ashes. "What if I don't want to be free?" I asked softly. His head snapped up. "What if I want to stay, not because of an arrangement, not because of protection or leverage or terms? What if I want to stay because—" I took a breath. "Because somewhere in the last year you stopped being a monster and started being you." "Elena," his voice was rough, "you don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying." I set the envelope down. "I'm saying that I've been invisible my entire life. I've been a maid's daughter, a victim, a burden, a pawn. And you looked at me, really looked at me. You saw who I could be before I saw it myself. That's not. And I'm saying," I crossed the room to stand in front of him, "that I'm terrified. I'm terrified of trusting someone. I'm terrified of being hurt again. I'm terrified of wanting things I'm not allowed to have." "What do you want?" I reached up and touched his face. His beautiful, dangerous, vulnerable face. "You," I whispered. "I want you if you'll have me." For a moment he just stared at me, those whiskey gold eyes searching my face for something. Then he kissed me. It was not a gentle kiss. It was a claiming, fierce and desperate and full of everything neither of us had been able to say. His hands tangled in my hair, my arms wrapped around his neck, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "I don't deserve you," he said. "Probably not. I'm dangerous. I know. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of you." I smiled, the first real smile in years. That sounds like a good start. I'm standing in the garden, watching Sophia chase butterflies. She's 4.5 now, all wild curls and skinned knees and questions that never end. She calls Dante Papa and knows nothing of the darkness that brought us together. To her, he's just the tall man who reads her stories and lets her put braids in his hair and sometimes falls asleep on the floor next to her bed because she asked him to stay. She doesn't know that he killed a man to save her, that he destroyed an empire to protect her, that he gave up everything he believed about himself to become something better. She just knows that she's loved. Mama, look." I kneel down as she runs toward me, her tiny hands cupped around something precious. "What did you find, baby?" "A ladybug." She opens her hands carefully, reverently. "Can I keep her?" "Ladybugs like to be free," I say gently, "but you can say hello before she goes." Sophia considers this with the gravity of a 4-year-old, making an important decision. "Okay," she says finally. "Bye-bye, ladybug. I hope you find your family." She opens her hands, and the ladybug flies away into the sunlight. "That was very kind," I tell her, kissing the top of her head. "Papa will be proud." "Papa's always proud." She says it with the absolute certainty of a child who has never known anything else. "Can we have ice cream now?" "After dinner." "What if Papa says yes?" "Then Papa is sleeping on the couch." She giggles and runs off toward the kitchen, already plotting her campaign. I watch her go, and I think about the woman I used to be. The woman on the bridge. The woman with $17 and no hope. The woman who counted steps because it was easier than counting all the ways she'd failed. That woman wouldn't recognize me now. She wouldn't believe it was possible. The house, the family, the peace. She would think it was a dream or a lie or a trick. But it's real. All of it is real. Arms wrap around me from behind, and I lean back into Dante's chest. "Sophia wants ice cream before dinner," I report. "I know, she already asked me." "What did you tell her?" "That her mother is the boss." I laugh. Good answer. We stand there in silence, watching the sun set over the garden, painting everything gold. "I saw you standing here," Dante says softly, "and I remembered." "Remembered what?" "The first time I saw you, on the bridge, counting steps." I turn in his arms to face him. He looks different now than he did that night, softer somehow, though no less powerful. The lines of his face have gentled. The shadows in his eyes have lifted. He looks like a man who finally learned how to hope. "I was so scared," I admit. "I had no idea what you wanted from me." "I didn't know either." He brushes a strand of hair from my face. "I just knew that I couldn't let you fall, and once I caught you, I couldn't let you go." Romantic. I try. I rise on my toes to kiss him, soft and sweet and full of promises. "Thank you," I whisper against his lips. "For what?" "For seeing me, for really seeing me, when everyone else looked away." He pulls back, just enough to meet my eyes. "Elena Marchetti," he says, and my name in his mouth still makes my heart skip. "You are the most visible person I have ever known, the most real, the most—" He shakes his head. "I don't have the words, I've never had the words, but I will spend every day of my life trying to show you what they would be if I could find them." "That's the most you've ever said at once," I tease. "Don't get used to it." We laugh together, and it sounds like music. So that's my story. The story of how I went from invisible to seen, from broken to whole, from a woman on a bridge to a woman in a garden, surrounded by love I never believed I deserved. And now I want to hear your story. Have you ever felt invisible? Have you ever hidden who you really are? Have you ever been given a second chance you weren't sure you deserved? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Because your story matters, you asterisk matter. If this video touched your heart, please like it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. I wish you love. I wish you courage. I wish you the strength to be seen. Until next time.